Hey everyone, welcome back to the CA Morning Show on CA Today. Now, as we just saw in the video, speaking of local customs, we must be proud of being Indonesians since we have a rich legacy of traditions and local wisdom.
True. Now, however, do we need to preserve and observe them as our ancestors did or not? Or can we change and tweak several things around to better suit today's world?
Well, that's a good question, Rahma. To find out more, we will chat with Butet Manurung, the founder of Sokola Institute, who joins us today all the way from Canberra, Australia. She will share with us how Indonesian traditions have developed in the past 18 years. Now, do we have to change in the ways the traditions are observed, or should we adhere to traditions, without transforming them? Let's talk with her.
Yes.
Good morning, Kak Butet. Hello.
Hello, good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Okay, now first of all, happy birthday, happy 18th birthday,
18
right?
years old, yeah.
To the Sokola Institute. Wow, it's been a long journey. Of course, 18 years in experience. So tell us about your milestone of 18 years of experience doing this Sokola Institute.
Thank you. So Sokola Institute was only a Sokola previously. We are the first organization in Indonesia who focus on education and advocacy for indigenous people. So it's already 18 years old, but I started it 22 years ago. And transforming into Sokola Institute, we try to transform our empirical knowledge into more methodological, because we want to disseminate our methods across Indonesia and to any educator, any organization or institution or government who wants to adopt the approaches.
Nice.
That's the milestone.
Nice. Now, Kak Butet, before 2016, Sokola Institute was called Sekolah Rimba, or Jungle School in English, right? Why was the name changed?
Yeah, because after having 16 school back then, and after we've been training several educators and corporates and having experience from our first-hand experience, we're not wanna be considered as just a bunch of people who's doing adventure. But we have methodology and we have empirical knowledge that we like to transform into more sounding to policy, if you like to say, to the government. And we know that we have 50 to 70 indigenous people in Indonesia with their wisdom and with their knowledge and skills that is not yet accommodated in our education system. And so we think transforming into Sokola Institute is a very strategic way to disseminate these approaches. And it's been going on because for 3 years we were like a consultant for education of ministry, to design a curriculum special for indigenous people, even though it's such a tough process, but it's moving.
Right.
Yes.
And Kak Butet, 18 years is a lot of time, right? And it is not a short period. I mean, you dedicating yourself to this Sokola Institute. Now, I was wondering, how wide is the scope of your work and how many locations have you actually reached so far?
Yeah, so I'm not the only founder, it's 5 of us. So we have one from Aceh Jaya, across to Asmat, Papua. So 17 so far. We have one in Halmahera, Maluku, in Sumba, in Flores, some in Sulawesi, some in Java. Yeah, so those 17 and reach 15,000.
So it's spreading,
individuals,
and still continuing.
Yes, spreading. Still continuing.
Right.
Yeah. So.
And
Kak Butet, So again, you're saying it's all across, all the way from Aceh and Sumatra to Java to Sulawesi, all across, from the west to east Indonesia. Now, I want to ask you, have you ever come across, traditional or native Indonesian communities who rejected or reluctant to accept programs offered by the Sokola Institute?
Yeah, no, only at the first time when I started in Jambi with the Orang Rimba, but we have assessment process to make sure that this not happen. And in assessment, we have 3 criteria to make sure that this community is at the stage of need an intervention of education that is sensitive to the culture and sensitive to their routine every day. So we have to make sure they're illiterate, they dedicate it to their tradition, and they experience oppression from the outside world. So these three conditions will make sure that they will not refuse the approaches, but it comes to the consideration, like it has to be dialogic. So sometimes they're not ready now, but by the time they experience all this oppression, sometimes they don't understand how to count money. For example, with our Sokola in Asmat, they don't know how to count money. They don't know the experience of losing their land, that is, it will not come back again. All of the risks that they never know before have to be introduced, so they're ready to accept education. Like,
Yes.
if I say education, it means education from outside world, yeah.
True, true. Now, since the Sokola Institute works closely with the traditional communities, do you actually volunteer to learn their native languages first, or how does it go? Can you also tell us about how long teachers usually stay there and to actually can adjust with the community itself?
Yeah, teacher has to stay at least two years, and they learn the language on their first day. They arrive at the location,
Right.
and they have to follow the routine. If the community are hunter-gatherers, they will do hunting and gathering as well. If the fisher, they go to the sea, and it's not like a big homework to them, because they usually love the uniqueness of the geographic character of the community.
True.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think it's really a big job for them to learn the language, to follow the community and follow the traditions. I think that's really awesome. Now, for some of us,
the challenges.
yeah, Kak Butet. Now, for some of us, especially in big
malaria.
cities, we might think that communities who live in remote locations are somewhat lagging behind in the times. But they actually usually live in very sustainable lifestyles that we don't see in cities or more developed areas. Now, can you speak about this? Is this true? And maybe what's your opinion on this?
No, on the contrary, they actually have such a revolutionary knowledge. Yeah, if you can imagine, they've been survived for 100 years. That means they always adapt to the changes, and they actually the one who help us still living in this planet, because indigenous people in the world possess 80% of the biodiversity, and they possess 90% of the cultural and skills diversity according to their geographic demands. Yeah, so actually we need them more than they need us, and they're not backward at all. And when they're ready, they should have given a chance to adjust to the changes. So we cannot say they should backward, they should be like isolated, or they should be integrated to the mainstream community, but they're the one who decide, and culture is never static, and it's always adjusting to the changes.
Okay, so adjusting is good. But Kak Butet, Sokola Institute programs are based on a traditional curriculum, right? So how does it differ to
Yes.
the national one?
Yeah. National one, the very obvious one is they have the same building. Yeah, from Aceh to Papua, school's building is always the same. But we Indonesia, we have different kind of diverse traditional housing. And same as curriculum as well, geographic. Our geographics are different, but national curriculum are the same, uniform, like a uniformity of curriculum from Aceh to Papua. They learn the same thing. So national curriculum will never teach them how to be a good hunter, how to be a good fisher, or how to be a good farmer. So Sokola curriculum is adjusted to their challenges. So we started with their problem. What is their problem? And what is their character of geographic and livelihood? Then we have to strengthen that part. And then while at the other side, we also make sure that the local chiefs or all the local experts still be their guru, like teaching hunting and teaching all the cosmology and traditional herbs and everything. So what we did is just blending the two, so knowledge from inside and knowledge from outside, but filtering to make sure that every subjects are benefiting the communities. And also the routine is also a big difference, because we never have a exact time that we decide, but it's up to them. Because if you know the school meaning, sekolah means leisure time actually. They have another school that they call maybe sekolah, school for life. Yeah,
Right.
School for life taught by their parents, but Sokola just teach whatever they need from outside. So not the whole curriculum from national. So sensitive to the culture and sensitive to the challenges, because otherwise, all of their locals will be replaced with this thing from Jakarta.
Right.
The local language will be gone because we teach in Indonesia at school, but at Sokola we teach in the local language. So that's also the first instilling the culture, so not uprooting them.
Right.
Yeah,
I think
no, that's great. I think it's not uniformity. It's adjusting to the local culture. Adjusting to the language, and the routines are different. Now, Kak Butet, I want to ask you, right?
Yeah.
We know the last kind of year and a half, 2 years, we've been living in a pandemic. Now, how has the pandemic affected the Sokola Institute?
Yeah, so that's also the one difference, because we live in 2 years within the community. We're not like back on and off, so we're not having really being affected. And indigenous people is actually the least community that is affected by pandemic. Yeah, there's 0 case.
Wow.
And we don't need signal because we're there, and there is no signal anyway.
Wow. Yeah, that's really impressive.
Yeah, and 18 years of experience doing this, Kak Butet. I know that you've faces many challenges, right, that you've overcome with your team. But can you tell us about your most unique experience teaching the kids, somewhere around Indonesia? What's your memorable story about teaching them?
At the beginning, my first and so amazing experience for me is when I was chased by the bear.
Wow, Jason, you'll never forget that.
It's only at the first weeks of my visit,
Okay.
and I was still wearing clothes like us city people.
Okay.
And then I found it so difficult. Before I thought, why do you wear loincloths like a Tarzan? It's so embarrassing. But when we chased by the bear, I was the one who left behind, always kept caught by the bush and stuff.
No.
And when I climbed the tree, I always falling down. And because of all of my clothes wet by the river, and they said to me, "You look so stupid." And then I realized that being stupid or clever is actually bias. You can see orang rimba in the city can be the most primitive and stupid people, but in the jungle I was the one who looked so funny and silly. They said, "You are so old and you still cannot climb tree."
Oh my God.
So for them it looks so silly. So that's thing I learned, that actually indigenous peoples are professor in their own location. So no one more clever.
Now,
or
Kak Butet,
more
as you call indigenous people professors, what are some takeaways that we can learn from them?
we can learn. Okay. The contextual learning actually.
The context learning.
Come back to education, because contextual learning, they've been doing that before we talk about it. They existed before our country anyway. Their learning method is from playing, exploration, and observation. That's different. And their classroom is the universe.
Right.
So they learn everything from the first-hand experience, and that's irreplaceable.
Right.
Transforming learning into livelihood. They play bow and arrow.
Yes.
They play it as a toy, and then they play it with a real bow and arrow and get a real game. So that's the difference. And I think we should learn from indigenous people to be more contextual in our daily life. So many clever students from the very high reputation of school,
Right.
but the river around the school still full of rubbish, right?
Right.
If orang rimba came to Jakarta, they're confused. Why rivers in Jakarta are so dirty? I thought everyone in Jakarta goes to school.
Yeah.
So they have to see the connection between schools and application in your real life.
Now, Kak Butet, earlier you mentioned that a lot of indigenous people, right, they experience land clearing. Can you speak a little bit more about that? What are kind of the challenges that we're facing, in 2021 about land clearing, and maybe how can we help them potentially?
Like a deforestation and stuff,
Yes.
Yeah, we've been we have what we call draft of the law, of masyarakat adat that has been stuck at the DPR, Parliament, for maybe 7 years, and it's very endangered. And with this omnibus law, it's even worse because it's happened at many places. Even during this presidential, more permit is permitted to land clear indigenous land. So more permits, but at the other side, in this presidential also, again, the very comprehensive approaches to indigenous people. So it's like two sides of coins, and I'm so worried about the speed of our economic growth, because that means also the loss for indigenous people's resources, because economic growth is often connected to the clearing of the land.
Right. Now, Kak Butet, you are currently at Australia, Canberra to be exactly, and still managing to, doing this conversation with us, educating us as well, and, keeping track with the Sokola Institute. Now, do you have any messages for the Sokola Institute and the traditional communities in Indonesia?
Yeah, I want every one of us being an agent of diversity, because supporting indigenous people is actually equal to supporting us. And as an Indonesian, I want to emphasize this, that we don't need to chase global competition or global competency, that we chase Western achievement, because we as an Indonesian, we are so wealthy and we have our own leading knowledge as well and leading skills, and we have much better forests and seas, and so we have to be confident for that. And being an agent of uniformity is very dangerous, not only for the indigenous people themselves, but also for all of us in Indonesia, because it's such a big threat to our nature and also our culture. Yeah, especially language. When we lose our local language, because language is a mother of culture, is a glue. When we lose our local knowledge, a local language, that means we lose also their knowledge about how to manage the biodiversity around them. When the language gone, the skills gone, that means the forests or whatever around them will be gone too.
True.
And that will be a big loss. We busy talking about GDP, but there is things that indigenous people has that is not counted by GDP, but it's priceless. Yeah, they produce our oxygen, water, our biodiversity. They're the one who make sure our Earth still rotating. This corona is actually a sign that the food chain in this world doesn't work exactly as naturally should supposedly happen. Yeah, there's one thing of the food chain that is gone because of deforestation, like very, very speedy.
Yeah. Now it seems again you've done a lot. You have again trying to make the change. What are some of your upcoming goals that you're trying to do maybe in the next year or 2 years?
As myself?
Yeah, as yourself, or even on behalf of the Sokola Institute.
As myself, I'm just started my PhD. I want to transform my empirical knowledge to more academic, so it will be more influential to the policy. And as Sokola as well, we have been trying different kind of campaign to influence people to be more tolerant, to be more sensitive to the culture, and praising our ancestor knowledge. Ancestor knowledge doesn't mean static from 100 years ago. It's adjusting to the nowadays challenges as well. So that's also the goal. We have different kind of campaign through my books, through my friend's book from our team. We produce a book special for methodology, how to initiate program with indigenous people or marginalized people. And surprisingly, a lot of teachers who's teaching in the city also think this book is like applicable to the city as well. So from the beginning to the evaluating and how to involve the ecosystem of education, and it's been the training have been applied to many, like with corporation, schools teacher, NGOs, and government as well.
Wow, very impressive. Very
So
impressive.
we want to be the we want to be the center of indigenous people's learning.
Yes, yeah, very impressive, and congratulations on you starting your PhD in Australia. Wish you best of luck. But before you go, Kak
Not in
Butet,
Australia, actually, in Amsterdam.
oh, Amsterdam. I'm sorry, I misspoke. But Kak Butet, before you go, See Today is set to launch in October. So before we conclude our chat right now, can you congratulate the channel in a traditional language or dialect for us, please?
Okay. Nawa baige engana taharona hodana si morning show.
Okay.
That's so great.
I cannot understand that, but I'm sure she wishes the best for C Morning Show, right?
Yes.
Okay, Kak Butet, thank you so
Thank
very
you.
much for the time.
Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Stay healthy, stay safe, okay? Bye now.
You too, you too.
Bye.
I miss my country.
Aw.
Bye.
Uh,